Hello, everyone. I think we should be live. Okay, seems to be okay. Do you hear me well? Okay, okay. Tommy, we don't hear you yet because I have to add you after. But when I will add you on stage, we will leave you. Okay, perfect. I see that people are connecting on YouTube and on LinkedIn. I hope it's working on LinkedIn. I don't see it on my side, but if you can just say it in the chat that it's working, it would be perfect. We will. Okay, perfect. Lovely. Okay, thank you so much for coming tonight. Sorry for the French audience. Today we're gonna speak in English. We are like mandatory to do it because we decided to invite some English native speaker. So it's gonna be in English, but maybe one day we're gonna try to do some French-based stuff around also Airflow alternative, but it will be like locally and offline. So today it's gonna be in English. I'm so happy we do this meetup online. This is the first part. I will reveal at the end of the event the second part and who will be the next speaker we're gonna invite. But for today, we're gonna have Tommy from Mage. I don't know how we pronounce it. Maybe Tommy will give us a clue. And we're gonna also have Ludovic from Kestra. Both of them gonna show us what are their Airflow alternatives. They're gonna do some demos. We will also have time for questions and stuff like this. So for sure it will be awesome. But before giving the floor to the speakers, I will just introduce the meetup and what content we try to do with the meetup and what also is the goal of this event. I think you all see my screen. I will switch the slide. So this event is organized with the Paris Apache Airflow meetup. This is a local meetup based in Paris. I think you can, if you are like using Airflow or even not, but I think you can also find local meetups on your locality because Airflow meetups are like everywhere in the world, I think. So if you're like based in any country, I think you can find at least a meetup in your capital, sometimes in other countryside cities. The goal of this meetup is to animate the Parisian or even France-based Airflow community. And in 2023, we decided to go for one meetup per month. And this meetup, this Airflow alternative online meetup, is one of the meetup we wanted to do because because every time we go offline, we have questions about like Airflow alternatives. And so we thought that it was a good idea to invite tools to see how they compare to Airflow, what they are bringing to the field. And also, yeah, I think it's like a good idea to just see what's around. Right now, it will be more one-way communication, like tools presenting and demoing. Maybe one day we're gonna try to do some kind of debates to see where the field is going, but this is not for today. Just as a reminder, with the meetup, we are looking for speakers and for hosts because the goal is to do one meetup per month until the end of the year. So if you want to speak, so if you are French and Paris-based and you want to host a meetup, please reach out. If you want to speak to a meetup, even if you are English, reach out also. We can find a way to do it either like in person or like through internet. So if you have any ideas, if you have any topic you want to share, we are very open, and so reach out. Right now, the organization team is composed of 5 persons. So I want to thank all my co-organizers, because tonight I'm the host, but we are 5 behind. So Abdelkader, Noor, Marion, Mohamed Amin, and I. So it's thanks to them that this event also is happening. So as I was just saying before, over the years, more and more tools were developed to orchestrate and schedule data work. I'm not saying data pipelines or data workflow, because this is like kind of debate around the world. So right now, I'm just trying to be as general as possible. So we want to orchestrate and schedule some data stuff. And we have right now more and more tools to do it. And I think it's now to navigate between what's available to us. And we also get a lot of questions from the community, from the people. Should we migrate out of Airflow to use this tool, or should we stay on Airflow, and stuff like this? And so, yeah, this is a beginning of answer that we're gonna have tonight. I just want to show some charts from Ben from Seattle Data Guy, who did a state of data engineering survey earlier this year or last year, I don't remember, with a few numbers just to show it. So right now, in terms of orchestrator, from the respondents, Airflow was like the main tool used, more than 40%. And we see that we have also other tools. None of Mage and Kestra are mentioned there, maybe because Mage was not yet as present on the bubbles when the survey was made. We'll see when in the next months how it goes. So today, as you already seen, we're gonna have Mage and Kestra, and right now I'm gonna give the floor to Tommy to start the presentation. Let me put Tommy on stage. Yes. Hello, Tommy.
Everyone. Super excited to be here. Thank you, everyone. I'm excited to meet all you. So I'm sad I can't see your faces, but excited to get started. I'm gonna share my screen. We're gonna go through a short presentation and then a demo. Now, throughout this, we're gonna do some fun stuff. Okay, there's gonna be different parts where we ask a question or a quiz, and you'll have a chance to win an awesome gift card and an awesome data engineering ebook. Okay, so let's get started. Let me share my screen and present. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Tommy Dang. I'm from Mage. So we're gonna walk through 5 things. I'm gonna give you a quick intro about myself. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Airflow, talk a little about Mage, design principles, and then do a live demo. So first, intro. I was a software engineer at Airbnb, joined in early 2015. I built a lot of things there, built a lot of apps, worked in Ruby, worked in JavaScript. Then I transitioned to a data engineering role. At the time, we had very few data engineers, and it was kind of a new thing to do there. Fun fact is, in 2018, Airbnb got rid of the data engineering role. Everyone who was a data engineer then went back to becoming a software engineer. We thought that we don't need data engineering. We'll just have software engineers do it. And then in 2019, Airbnb brought the role back. So it's a fun fact. Data engineering, very needed. Also, during my time there, I worked on lots of dev tools, really enjoyed working on tools that help people do their job faster, better, more fun, allowing them to be more creative, removing all the redundant, mundane work. And in addition to those dev tools, work specifically also on data tools. So dev tools, but specifically around working on data, moving data, transforming data, etc. also dabbled in the machine learning infrastructure. And then left in 2020 and started Mage in 2021. One thing I learned during my time at Airbnb is don't let your role define your responsibilities. And what this means is you might join as an analyst or everyone here is probably software engineer or data engineer, but you might have, if you come in, your probably responsibility initially maybe build this, do that, help customers, provide this information, but don't let that limit the scope of your responsibilities. As someone who is part of the company, wherever you're at, your responsibilities is the end-to-end. It's to wow the end user, wow the customer, to drive business value, to expand your company's reach. So that's what I learned, one of the main career lessons I learned there. Okay, next part. Let's talk about Airflow. Airflow is awesome, right? We're all here. Airflow is amazing. During my time there, I got to work on Airflow a lot, use it a ton, loved it. So a little bit about Airflow at Airbnb specifically. So it started in 2014, late 2014. It was open sourced in the summer of 2015. And then to this date, there's actually a dedicated team just working on Airflow at Airbnb. There's 9 engineers on that team. And there's a whopping 14,000 DAGs. Wow, can you imagine that? That's a lot. So let's talk about some challenges we experienced while we're there early on. So running locally, this one was very tricky. So you could get it running locally, like you can actually load the web server, but there came a point where running the DAGs was just too difficult. And so we eventually had a shared environment where you would be able to sync your code to that shared environment and then run the DAGs on the shared environment. So in the beginning, we were running in a VM or something called Vagrant, if anyone remembers that. And you would basically be able to launch the web server there and click around. But we eventually then just had a cloud environment where we shared our resources. Another challenge we had there was reusing a lot of code. So in the beginning, a lot of folks had really large DAGs. They, of course, imported libraries, but there were steps in DAGs that seemingly could have been commonly shared, but it just wasn't. Now, of course, you can mitigate this with better engineering practices. You can componentize everything, create modules, import, really dry things up. But that wasn't what everyone did. There wasn't a convention for that. Another challenge we had was passing data between tasks. Now, I know there's XComs, but at the time, that wasn't as easy and prevalent to use. And so passing data between tasks, folks had to be very creative. They sometimes use XComs, they sometimes use Redis, they sometimes wrote the data to disk. Another challenge we had was testing the DAGs. I shared before when we were running this locally, there's quite a lot of DAGs, there's quite a lot of dependencies, so it was challenging running it locally. So we did have a shared development environment. What people would do is they would either go to the shared development environment, go to the UI, run their DAG end-to-end, or they would SSH into the shared environment machine, and then they would use a command line to run specific steps in their DAGs. So it's possible, but it was still challenging. Also, challenging maintaining workers. So we had lots of DAG. You saw 14K. That 14K is current. Even when I was there, we had above 10K or so. And there would be times where over the weekend or on Monday, we call this, Mondays are quite scary because you can wake up, go to work, and then you open up the jobs, not even the jobs, you open up the products and dashboards on Superset that you own, and then you start seeing, okay, the dates for these metrics are several days behind. Then you go, okay, why are these behind? Then you go check the latest DS or the latest partition, and then you check, the latest partition was a couple days ago. Why? You hop in Airflow, you open up your DAG, and you're like, okay, well, this hasn't ran. All these boxes are still green or gray, and you're like, oh, great, now what? And then you go upstream, and then you go to the task, and you realize there's a ton of jobs still in queue, and then you try to figure it out. You ping the DE team, the data infrastructure team. You find out there's some job that's constantly just not finishing, or it erred and then it never pinged anybody. It was a nightmare. So of course, over time, this got a lot better, but in the beginning, it was challenging. And then finally, debugging failed tasks. This one, so when things break, there is good logging. You can set up good logging, but it was quite difficult to replicate locally. And so when that happens, sometimes, I hate to say this, but we would have to think that, okay, this fix might fix it, commit it, push it, rerun the task, and then hopefully that commit fixed it. If it doesn't, you got to do it again and again. So there are some challenges there, but of course we got through them. Cool. So now I want to chat a little bit about Mage. What is Mage, the team, etc. So Mage is a data pipeline tool, simple, for transforming data and integrating data. Our mission is to equip developers with data tools so they can create magical technology. We have a team of 7. There's 4 in engineering, design, and then 2 in growth ops. We have 3 advisors, so Zach, Benjamin, Alexei. And we have quite an amazing group of investors, folks from Creative Ventures, Data Hub, Mother Duck, CEO Vercel, Broken Data Company, Designer Fund, Neo, and a few others. Okay, so now we're going to take a quick pause. It's fun time. What is fun time? Well, there is this form. I'm not even sure how we're going to share it out, though, but there's this Google form with 3 questions on there. You have 3 chances to win an awesome prize, okay? So hopefully we can give that form out to people. And there's 3 questions in there. Just fill them out, submit it, and then we'll announce the winners at the very end. Okay, I'll move on. Let me talk about some design principles that we have before we get into the demo, because this will help orient the reasoning why we have certain features the way they are. And these are guiding principles that help us make every feature decision. So the first one is easy developer experience. It's actually the number 1. Everything we do, we always ask ourselves, will this make the developer experience easier? Will this make it more complex for them? Will it take more time for them to learn? So everything's around that. Also, you'll see how easy developer experience plays out into the notebook-like user interface we provide. Second is engineering best practices built in. Whenever we make, let's say, a technical architecture decision, or maybe some coding syntax or API, we also want to bake in, how do we take software engineering practices and help enforce them or help motivate the end user to apply those best practices. Third is everything in Mage is all about data. We are only a data pipeline tool. We don't do data workflows. We don't do data workloads, whatever. We don't even call ourselves an orchestrator. We're just a data pipeline tool. So everything we do is about data. So data is treated as a first-class citizen. And you'll see how that plays out into the features we have. And finally, scaling made simple. We believe you don't need a team of 9 to maintain and scale this up for a team of 1,000. So everything we do, again, we make it so that you can start small and you can grow very, very fast, all on your own. Awesome. Let's jump into the demo. Okay. While I transition to the demo, I want this to be a little bit interactive. So how about we just take some questions first? Let's do that. Want to be interactive, make sure everyone's excited. It's 7 p.m. there. You probably have a lot of amazing things to do. And I thank you for taking the time to hang out here. So do we have any questions before I jump to the demo?
There are not yet questions in the chat, but if people want to ask something, not yet.
No worries, no worries. Awesome. I'll take that
Yeah,
sign.
just to tell you, to me, your camera is a bit blur. Like, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, the
awesome.
focus is
And
now good.
time check. How much time do I have so I know how fast I need to go?
You have still 20 minutes, roughly 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay, awesome. Sweet. So now I'm going to go through a few things. So Mage is a data pipeline tool, and I'm going to walk through building a standard batch pipeline, stuff that you typically do in Airflow. And then, how does it integrate with DBT? Okay, I'll touch up on that, Jeremy. I like that question. I'll show you the DBT integration after this. Okay, so then the second thing is what we'll show is I want to show you the data integration pipeline. So if you ever use things like Fivetran, Airbyte, Mage can actually do a lot of those. And what's special about Mage is we use an open source standard called Singer to run those data integration pipelines. I'll quickly cover streaming pipelines, and I'll show you all the great observability we have baked in. Okay, so step one, let's go ahead and build a pipeline. So here you see, here's all my pipelines for my team. It's when you start Mage, it just reads locally from your local files, like how Airflow does it with the DAG folders. Okay, so here, let's go ahead and build some stuff. So I already have some files in here, but let me go ahead and delete these, and then we'll look at how we build out a pipeline. Now, one thing in the engineering best practices built-in design principle, we believe in modularity and reusability of code. So how we designed Mage makes it very easy to reuse. So let's go ahead and look at our code on the left side. This is just a bunch of files from my computer. So I'm going to drag one of these over and drop this here. So let's say someone from my team built this already. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'll just add it here. And another thing is you can press play. If you've ever used a Jupyter Notebook, this will feel like that. It's not a Jupyter Notebook, but it feels like that. You get that interactive, it's living. So you can write your code, run it, and then see the output of it. So here you go. You can see the tables. Awesome. My code is looking good. And that's part of the easy developer experience. You don't need to wait around to see your code, test it in production. You can almost feel it and touch it. And people love this. And it makes the speed in which you build your pipelines so much faster. Another thing, the engineering best practices built in, you might have seen something like this. Test. What is this? Well, you can write as many of these as you want. I can have several of these. Again, we talked about engineering best practices, and we believe data validation, testing your data quality is very important. We bring test-driven development to data engineering. And you see here, this will run the test every single time you press this play button. It will also run the test every single time your pipeline runs. So let me show you what it looks like if it fails. So of course this is going to fail, and it will just error, and it'll tell you the error. So it's really great. You can build it once, launch it, and go to sleep and know that if it breaks, you'll be alerted. Okay, let me go ahead and reset that. Now, next step is let's add another step in my pipeline. I want to load more data before it gets passed around. So let's go ahead and add some data loading. Now, another part of easy developer experience is, what if you like writing Python, so you make API calls. But what if your data is already in SQL? Well, why move it around? Just leave it in your database and write SQL. No problem. So let's go ahead and write that out here. And I'm just going to paste in some sample query like this. I can choose an existing database I have. This is my connection profile. I'll just save this to this schema and then run this. And just like the block before, I can run it and then see, oh, look, my SQL query works. Awesome. Time to move on. And the last step I'll show you, and of course you can just keep adding more and more and more, and there's a lot of other functionality, but I'm just going to add some transformation logic here. So let me go ahead and add this transform block. And you'll see on this right-hand side, this is basically saying, hey, this one is independent, it'll run. This one is independent, so this will run. So when our pipeline runs, both of these run concurrently. And then this line drawing between these two blocks is saying, okay, this one must run before this one runs, and this one passes this data down. Now I can also use this user interface, drag and drop, and now these two will pass this data down to this. So we also, remember what I said before about data is a first-class citizen. Everything's about data, so every block sends data to another block if it's chained together. And that data actually is Every block produces that data. It's stored, version, partition. It's catalog. You can even backfill it, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here, these get passed down, as you can see, as two separate arguments, positional arguments. I'm just going to paste in some code here and then run this. And okay, so I wrote this wrong, but as you can see, it will pass this data down and then drag it like that. Okay, I'll fix the bug, my code bug later. Next part I want to show you is, let's go ahead and build the data integration pipeline. So what you saw is, batch standard pipeline, write a lot of code. Let me show you what it looks like to build out an integration pipeline. So here, it'll feel and look like a normal pipeline, but you write a lot less code because fetching data from an API typically is the same. If you want to fetch data from Google Analytics, that's typically the same code all the time. And underneath the hood, we actually use the Singer spec. Look, check it out. Stitch came up with this spec. It's just a way of doing something. It's a way of pulling data down from something, basically outputting a schema and then a format so that another Python process can consume it. So we adopted that. And what's great is there's over 300 existing sources and destinations out there. So we just basically rework it and make it run in Mage. So let's go ahead and choose Google Analytics, for example. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to paste in some credentials I have already. I can test the connection here. Okay, and cool, it works. Let's go ahead and view all my streams. This is not going to look that exciting just because there's only one stream. But if you had, let's say, Postgres, for example, it'll just fetch all your tables. Or let's say Salesforce. If you want to sync from Salesforce, they have hundreds of different tables you can sync from. So here I can just continue moving on, but you can click on which columns you want to keep. I'm just going to do a few columns here. So maybe we'll do country, and then we'll do sessions, so I don't sync every single column over. Okay, so next is session. Okay, I don't know my alphabets. Okay, let's just do that one. Okay, next, let's go down to our destination. Where do we want to sync it to? I'm just going to sync it to Postgres because I have that set up already. Or, why don't we just do this? Let's reuse some of this. Nice, look at that. Didn't have to type in anything. Okay, now I'm basically done. I can sync this. But wait, what if I want to transform some of that data? So I can actually add some Python code that will transform the data row by row. So here I can do something like this. The first argument is just say row text equals 1, return row. Bam, just like that. Now I have transformation on the fly. Okay, so now that I showed you this, let me show you what it looks like to schedule these. So, for example, if you want to run this on a schedule, no problem, easy. You can create an hourly schedule. Cool, this is hourly, great. But what if I want to create multiple? Maybe I want to run hourly on the weekdays and then run every 6 hours on the weekends. No problem. Just go ahead and do this custom one. I don't remember the syntax, but just pretend that I do. Maybe this, I forget it. Cron is tricky, but you get the idea. So I can have one schedule on the weekdays and one schedule on the weekends. Really cool stuff. But what if I don't want to run this every day, every hour? I just want to run this every single time. Hypothetically, let's just say this Google Analytics one was an S3 source. So let me just change it real quick. Let's say this was S3, for example, S3. And I don't want to run this every 5 minutes. There might be nothing to fetch. Well, you can actually create an event trigger. So you can, and depending on your cloud provider, I have this on AWS, you can choose AWS. I don't have an event here, but you can create an event, an AWS event or CloudWatch, where you can say, trigger this event, emit this event every single time a new object is created, updated, deleted from a specific bucket. And what Mage will do is Mage will then, this pipeline will run every single time that event occurs. And the event payload is actually accessible throughout your entire pipeline. For example, I didn't go over this advanced, pretty cool feature, but you see this keyword arguments right here. If you trigger this from an event, something like this would be accessible. So imagine you had one pipeline that does, if event name equals S3, for example. Do X, Y, Z. So you can do something really dynamic like that. Pretty cool stuff. Not only that, you can parameterize your entire pipeline. So let's say you wanted to fetch this based off of country, for example. You want to reuse this code, right? So if I had to do country equals, France, for example, well, if someone wanted to use this block of code, they can't. You just hard coded that. No problem. We could fix this. We can do something like this: keyword args get country, and if it doesn't exist, we'll do this. So now you can reuse this block, and in my pipeline, I will go ahead and set something like this. I'll do country equals US, for example. And in your pipeline, you can do whatever country you want. So you can really make that dynamic that way. Okay, we'll keep going. So then next is the last type of trigger is API. If you want to make an API call, trigger this from any of your other apps, no problem. Make a post request to this. And anything you put in your payload, let's say anything you put in your payload, that gets accessible in this as well. So again, you can have a very generic pipeline. Different people are making API calls to it, passing in different data, and you can have your code, logically process that data differently. Okay, so what's my time at? How much more time do I got? Okay, I think I got
8 minutes. If we want to stick to the schedule, you have 8 minutes left.
Oh, I do want to. Is there any questions? I do want to give time for questions and make this interactive. There's so much more I could show. Like I have the DB. I want to eventually show the DBT, the streaming pipelines, all this stuff. But I do want to open up to some questions as well because we only have.
Yeah, actually, there are questions in the chat. Maybe I will moderate and give some to you. But first, awesome. I want to start with a question because it's like an Airflow meetup. Yes. My first question I will also ask to other alternative is, do you think you will replace Airflow in the following years? I think it's more years in terms of like time range. Yeah.
So okay, here's what I want to say. Replace. It really depends. There's a saying. When I was at Airbnb, Brian, he taught us. Your competitors don't kill you, your customers will. So as long as we continue to serve the developers, the data engineers, the best way we can, the way they want, and as long as other companies, other services don't, then it's a natural progression. So we're not out to just, kill off all the other tools, because other tools, it's better, it's good for your fit. Maybe you have a specific need, it works for you. Whatever works for you works for us, because all we care about at the end of the day is that data engineers are happy, they're having fun, they're enjoying what they're using. If they're enjoying it, then who are we to replace it? Let's say you like the color red. Like, why am I going to go to you and say, hey, wear this blue shirt, you'll like it more? No, you like red, go ahead, wear red. And then when you don't like red anymore, we'll be around for you. So to your question, I think we're just going to keep serving our users and serving the broader community. And if they find it more fun, faster, easier to use than their existing tools, then we'd love to helping them. But we're not out set to eliminate all the other tools, because if those tools are help you with your job, help you, make a living, help you with your career, then we're happy for you, and we're happy for those tools.
Okay. And just one question to me, just for me to be clear, and after I will get question in the chat. What you are demoing is within a web browser, like you are within a web browser?
Yes. So this user interface, yes, you do use Mage through this user interface. And the reason why is, remember what I said, the easy developer experience. Part of this interface is it makes the developer experience easier. You get to see your code. You get to interact with your code. Wherever you need to write code, we provide a nice UI editor. So this is just using VS Code behind the scenes. But everywhere else, we augment the developer experience with user interface, touch, click, right clicks, all this. Now, there are a few people who ask, can I just use Mage without the UI? You absolutely can. You're going to make it harder on yourself, but you absolutely can if you want.
Okay. So there are like maybe a lot of questions. I just go up. The first question was around DBT, but I think you already answered. Like,
Yes.
the question was, how do you integrate with the current data ecosystem like DBT?
Yes. Maybe I'll quickly share. We absolutely do. So what's really great about Mage, I don't have this set up here, but we have a very deep integration with DBT. It's not an afterthought. It was a primary thought. So when you create your project, we auto instantiate a folder here. You just take your existing DBT projects and you just drop it in here. You can have multiple. You can drop in all 10 DBT projects if you have. And it's very easy. So you can create let's say I create a pipeline just like this. You can add an existing model. I don't have any models here, but it'll add all the refs for you. You can run the models in here. It'll run like a SQL block. Remember how those SQL blocks,
Okay.
You can see the previews. It'll run like that. You can see the previews. You can also add non-DBT blocks. So imagine, let's say I had this block of code, Python, that loads data. If I had another DBT block here, I can have this Python block pass this data down to the DBT model and vice versa. So we do everything DBT core can do plus more.
Okay. Another question was, if someone wants to migrate from Airflow to Mage, is it easy to migrate everything, or do you need to rebuild from scratch?
Great question. So I would say there's baby steps you can take. One is you can use Mage to just build your Airflow DAGs. So then if you want Airflow to just keep running stuff, no problem. You could just, harness the user interface and the developer experience. That's one way. Another way is you can, if you want, we're working on a way to basically be able to translate your DAGs into Mage pipelines. But at the end of the day, this is again part of our engineering best practices and an easy developer experience. If you look here, there is no crazy syntax. Like, okay, maybe there's just a decorator like these. These are automatically added to your code as you add it. But then that's it. You don't have to define the upstreams, the downstreams in the code. You don't need any special configurations. And what Mage is doing behind the scenes is it's just running your Python file, taking that data, serializing it, storing it somewhere, and then it'll execute the next Python script and then load that data, deserialize it, etc. And so we separate the way you do your dependency between steps and your files. Now, in Airflow, if you've broken up your DAG into functions, then it's quite easy to translate over. But most teams I've seen, even at Airbnb, it's not. It's just a giant DAG file, and it's inline written. The DAGs and the tasks are looped over inline written. That's quite difficult to break out. So the migration could be a little tricky.
Okay, I will get, I think, two last questions. The first one was, does it follow parallel distributed processing under the hood? How would you determine concurrency?
Yes, great questions. Yes, we run everything concurrently. So you do, by default, we have a max concurrency, but you can increase that concurrency. Now, you can run this locally. People are running this locally perfectly fine. You can install it via pip, Poetry, Conda. We recommend using Docker. It just makes it a lot easier to do. And if you do deploy this to cloud, and again, scaling made simple, we make this super easy to deploy to any major cloud providers. We provide Terraform scripts to do this, templates to do this. When you deploy, we'll by default deploy to the cloud provider's native container service, for example, like Cloud Run or ECS. You can optionally deploy to the Kubernetes service if you want, but by default, we'll do the container services. And for those, what happens is there is a central scheduler and a web UI that runs on a container, but every pipeline that runs will spin up its own container, run the pipeline there. So you have high concurrency there. Now, the only blocker would be the open connections to the Postgres database, but we have ways to mitigate for that.
Okay, I get it. So I think there are like too many questions in the chat. So I think you could like answer it like offline by text, like maybe with Thomas or you. But I have last one question, which was, what about the pricing? And I think my question is like going maybe further than that, which is like you have an open source tool and you are like private company, I would say. And how will you draw the boundaries between what will be free and paid? For instance, when I see like the ID like this, will it be free forever or stuff like this?
Great question. Let me tell you, and just don't share this with our investors, okay? But we raised enough money to push out monetization for a very long time. Eventually, yes, we will need to monetize. We'll have a cloud-hosted version. We'll have a hybrid deployment. But we raised enough money to keep pushing it out as far as possible. And the reason why is we want to keep focusing on the open source project. We want to keep adding all the awesome features in here. We want to keep focusing on the data community. We don't want to be at a point where we have to draw the line between, hey, should this feature be, should we not add this feature so that people will pay for it? For example, user authentication, role-based authentication, that is typically a paid feature. We actually have that. You can set it up so you have users, you have different roles, you have user profiles, all of that. So a lot of these features we want to quickly build and put it in the base product so that we just feel like those are table stakes, and we want to push out at least 2 years until we start having to figure out, okay, let's gate this feature. But we are, one of our ethos, the culture of the team, the investors we brought on is we care mostly about the community, and this will always be a free open source project. And what we'll want to do, and what we're actually coming up with, is a more clever way to do pricing. And maybe it's not along the features. Maybe, maybe all 100% features are always free and amazing. Is there a different angle? Is there a different way that we can extract value? We think there is, and it's around the broader data engineering community. We have a vision for what we call the open world mode, where it's sort of like what Kaggle did for data scientists, but for data engineering. So those types of ideas will allow us to monetize without having to take away from the functionality and the capabilities of the community.
Okay, thank you for your answer, and thank you for your presentation, Tommy. I think it was really great to see Mage in action.
Thank you.
Maybe you have last words before we jump to Kestra.
Yes. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll go through the questions. Super appreciate everyone taking the time at 7 p.m. And thank you for having me. And we'll have a second form that we'll share out as well. So there's a total of 6 questions. Don't miss out. You can win a lot of great gift cards and an awesome book. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you, everyone, and hope to see you all soon.
Thank you, Tommy. See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this first presentation. We're gonna move to Kestra. I will give the floor to Ludo, who is the CTO at Kestra. Hello, Ludo.
Hello, everyone. Really excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Christophe. Really appreciate.
Okay, the floor is yours. You can share your screen if you have some slides. And
yeah, try that. I think it's okay right now.
Yes, I show the screen.
Okay.
You're on stage.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for being here. I want also to thank Airflow because Airflow was a multiple source of inspiration for me and for multiple projects. We are parts of this with Kestra, and but we decided also to look wider than the data orchestration part, and took as inspiration a lot of parts like BPM and process orchestration, among others. One of them. So I'm Ludovic Deon. A few words about me. I'm a software engineer since 20 years, mainly working with open source technologies, and always in the world of data, doing all of these ETL, ELT, orchestration, schedule, and so on, with simple script and crawl tab at first. I decided to give back to the open source community by creating my own project called IKHQ. It was almost 5 years ago. It was it's a user interface based on for Kafka. It's been a huge success with over 15 million of downloads used by large corporations like BMW, Best Buy, and Decathlon. But I need more ambitious projects. So during a job in a French company called Leroy Merlin, the data teams tried to implement Airflow for 6 months, spending hundreds of thousands of euros, but fails in performance, security, and adoptions. This was the born of Kestra. I started working on it during the night, the weekends. It was 3 years ago. And that's worse, Kestra was found his first customer with Leroy Merlin, with a massive production with more than 4,000 data pipelines, million execution every month, and used by more than 200 people every day. After this success, we officially launched Kestra last year, approximately last year, and it reached over more than 3,000 stars and numerous users worldwide. So what is Kestra? Kestra is at first an orchestrator, and we have Flow in Kestra, which is mostly the DAG in Airflow, grouped by namespace. Flow contains a list of tasks. Each task have some properties as input, and it will output some data, which can be any type, even complex like files. Kestra under the logic of the flow with sequential tasks, parallel ones, switch, loop, error management, timeout, retries, and all the features you need to have your workflow successfully. Kestra is also a scheduler which reacts to multiple events. It can be scheduled like a cron tab on steroid, I would say. It can be external events such as file system detection, database result sets, message queue. One of the major features can be also the flow dependencies, that is really useful for managing complex data pipelines. For example, in a company, you have stocks team and sales teams. The business users want to create real-time stocks based on these two first assets. Using the flow dependencies, the responsibilities was separated, and you can wait for these two first flow to end and to start this new one that will create the KPI. We also have API and webhook that allow to start flow from external systems. So you can send large amount of data directly through the API, and remove the burden of using an external file system like S3 for sending the data. Last things to notice is that the triggering, the scheduling, I would say, is totally decorrelated from the flow. You can have multiple triggers on the same flow with different types. You can mix the schedules, the file system detections, and so on. One thing I never understand in Airflow is why I need to specify a schedule on that tags. We are also data at Earth in Kestra. We are not a simple orchestrator. We orchestrate data. The first thing we covered is the file systems to make easy to produce some data from task and to input this data to the next task. We created what we call Kestra internal storage, that allow to have transparent file systems and to be easily share this between tasks. And we want also that every task can easily talk to another task. So we decide that this internal storage must be strong typed. A date must be a date, not a strings. And you can easily mix the task without the pain. For example, BigQuery task can talk to MySQL, as well as BigQuery can talk to Redshift, and so on and so on and so on. Forgot the BigQuery to MySQL operators and the BigQuery to Redshift operator and BigQuery to S3 operators. All tasks in Kestra can be easily used between them. Right now, choosing between ETL and ELT seems a no-brainer nowadays. ELT has won the war, but there is still some edge case you may want to use ETL at first. For example, imagine that the data was poorly exported by your partners. You only have two choices for now: inserting int at strings, for example, if you have a wrong data inside the data, or rejecting the line. The best for us is to pre-process the data to remove the error, and the same pre-processing is also needed when you have personal data that you are not allowed to load into your data warehouse. Last but not least, Kestra is polyglot engine, meaning you can use any programming language thanks to the support with Docker. You can run Python script, JavaScript script, R, and any Docker image can be used to create some data pipelines. When I started Kestra, my first feeling is that most of the data pipeline is the same. You extract, you transform, you load, you transform. And so we decided to choose a declarative language with low learning curve that is based on YAMLs to drive all the flow in Kestra. In fact, since project inception, I want to be able to provide a full graphical interface to build your pipelines. More people will be able to build pipelines, targeting, for example, the data analyst that is totally competent to build pipeline based on ELT pipelines. And even every IT people in the company, when you want to embrace the data mesh principles, every application team must develop their own pipelines that will distribute the data for the whole company. Using a programming language that means that you are building a software also. So you will need to understand how to set up your development environment, how to test, how to package, how to deploy. The descriptive language will remove the whole complexity of the development process. We also rethink the deployment process. You can easily develop from the UI. Mostly, most of the people is doing that. You develop on the UI directly on your development environment, and after you can deploy with CI/CD processing with tools like GitHub Action, GitLab CI, or even more Terraform provider. Kestra integrates easily with all the operational data stores, systems, and data stacks, thanks to more than 300 tasks available right now. We are covering mostly all the transaction database, NoSQL, data warehouse, most of the file systems, with the legacy one with FTP, I will say SFTP, and Cloud One with S3. We are handling also messaging system like Kafka, or even more change data capture with Debezium. We do also data transformation internally. You can transform easily data from Avro to JSON to Parquet and so on and so on. We integrate also with most of the modern data stacks with an integration with DBT, for example, Airbyte, and other one. We do notification for sure, and we integrate with machine learning with Sparks, Vertex AI, and more engine that allow to have large compute for the doing machine learning. And if you need, you can easily develop your own plugins in Java, or use the scriptings with Docker image in any language to fill the gap. Now I will jump into a little demo to show you how it's fast to create some pipelines in Kestra. So at first, I will start by creating a simple flow that will scrap this API. It was a Docker Hub API, and mostly we wanted to extract the number of pull counts of the Docker image. So at first, we need to create a flow. Every flow have an ID. So here is the first one that is grouped by namespace. So I will create a namespace, and I will add the first task that will download this JSON.
Can you zoom in a bit, Ludovic? Just for people to see better.
Okay?
Yes, will be better. Yes, perfect.
So here is the first one. Will download the files. It's a simple task, like you say. We have some properties. We declare the plugins, and we say which URL we want to download. The second task will be to transfer the data. So I will read it into Kestra internal storage with a JSON reader using the output of the previous task. So for example, here I will use the output of this previous task to transform it in JSON. After, I want to show you how it's easy to do some transformation. So I will transform it using file transform that will use a subset of Python directly inside Kestra. So I will still use the JSON files that I previously executed, and I will add some scripts, some really simple script that will just remove one column, and add the date of the scrapping. So I want to remove this word markdown that I don't care, and I want to add a simple date just after. Just after that, I will write it to JSON. Why I will write it again to JSON? It's because I will send you to BigQuery, and BigQuery expect to have a JSON file at first. So I will transform, and I will show you just right now. There is some validation. So just right now, I will show you. During the development, I was able to see the topology of the flow. And in the near futures, we will add some low-code editor that allow you to directly edit all these tasks directly in forms. You will never have to know all this property in YAML, and we will bring a full drag and drop interface directly on the UI. So basically, this one, I have the JSON files. I just need to load it right now in BigQuery. So I will do a query, a BigQuery query, BigQuery. Where is BigQuery? I can find it. Yeah. So BigQuery, no, it's a load, not a query. I want to do it's a load. I will load it from the previous task, so the JSON files. And I will use the auto detection from BigQuery to let BigQuery create the files. And afterwards, I will say that the format is JSON because BigQuery supports also Avro and so on. And the last thing I need to do is to have a destination table. So I will create it in one of my projects. I think it was test, and I will call it the hub. So mostly, I think I didn't do any mistake. Let me try. So right now, you can see that in real time, you will have all the processing files that will be shown. You can see the log in real times. You can see the output of every files. For example, this file was downloaded. I can download it directly in the browsers, and I can see is for every task in the projects. every task is, you are able to have some informations. And here we can see that we have loading. We have loaded the data in the data warehouse, and I can see here that there is some outputs where is the destination table. So basically, let me look if I have some data inside the BigQuery. The data read. So here I have created the table. I have some data here, and the data is loaded. Nice, good one. So now I want to add some things. I will add some what we call it an input. So input is parameter needed to start an execution. So I will add an input with type strings, a name that I will call repository repo, and that is required. I will use this input here, and it will ask input name repos. Nice. So now I will start a new execution, and I will use another famous repository to scrap another information. So you can see that I have downloaded here another files. It took a few minutes, and I think I do another query. And I have right now here the information about this famous repository with millions of Docker pools. Nice, it's cool. The last thing that I want to be able to do, it's okay, my pipeline is done. Nothing more to do, it's really simple. Now I will add a triggers, but I will call schedules. That is a schedule, and will start every day at 4 a.m. Okay, it's done. Right now, the job is done. You can easily, every night, I will scrap the data. It took me, I would say, 5 minutes to know it. I didn't use any programming language to do that. It's really easy. And I think you will be able to do that. And after that, we can also see the whole pipeline. So you will be able also on the UI not to see your pipeline, but you will be able to see all the pipeline of the company. For example, with this kind of dependencies, and you can see all the lineage of all the pipeline that each flow is using. For example, you can see easily that the turnover by country needs to have other detail, other end users. Everything is visible on the UI. You will have also previous executions. Everything is visible also. You can search, you can filter, you can do everything, and even more log in real time. Everything is available. Last but not least, every plugin documentation is directly inside the UI. And if you build your own plugin in Kestra, the documentation will be auto-generated based on the code. So we don't have to bother about document your own plugins. So I hope you have enjoyed this one. I hope it will let you test the tools. If you can also join us on the Slack, I will be happy to give you to hear your feedback and to send you some stickers if you want. We have a lot. So please join, please give us the stars, and thank you for your time. And I hope you have some questions also.
Thank you so much, Ludo, for this presentation and demo. So we already have some question in the chat, but before I jump to the question in the chat, My question I will ask to everyone is about your vision about the Airflow competition, I would say. Do you think do you want to replace Airflow in the future?
Clearly, I think there is different kind of personas in the world. I know that we have an approach based on low code. It's not everyone that will be happy with this. I think if you have an Airflow cluster and you are happy with it, just continue. It's not really painful. But if you have some pain points, if you want to democratize the data pipeline within the company, avoiding to have data engineers, more and more data engineers in your company, and you want to allow more people to do some pipelines. If you want to streamline the whole pipelines creations, because creating Kestra is really fast. There is a low learning curves. So if you have all of these needs, maybe you can give a try to Kestra, and I think you will be morely happy. We see more and more people that was all user of Airflow that is happy with Kestra. But if you have something working, it's not needed, and I think Airflow will be here for a long time.
Okay. I do agree with what you said. One question was, does this mean it's more an alternative to cloud workflow or step function in terms of orchestration approach? It was like a question that was asked like at the beginning of the presentation. So
mostly with Kestra, you can do everything. So it's an orchestrator at first, so you can use the orchestration parts. If you want to do more processing orchestration like Google Cloud Workflow and so on, it's possible. We have customer that is doing that because what they like in Kestra is the high availability, the high processing parts of Kestra, and they use it mostly as an orchestrator. But like I say, we have also data at Earth, so we can do even more than just simple orchestrations and just simple scheduling. So we can be an alternative also of Google Cloud Workflow and step functions, but we can do more. Let people, more people in the company use it to fill more gap in the company.
Next question is it possible to create or modify, not just trigger, pipeline from the API / webhook?
Yes, everything in Kestra is API. So you can create your flow, your pipeline, create execution, start pipeline, modify pipeline. You can do everything in Kestra through the API. It's already what we have done with Terraform integrations. So Terraform integration allow you to create everything in Kestra with Terraform, so you can do it with the API. And we try to make the most of the more functionality at first easily with some GitHub integration natively and so on. But if you are freelance, you can create all of this because, from the API. We have at Romain, we have a good project that was automatically create flow based on the schema on their database through the API, and they totally automatize all the things through API.
Okay. Two questions were related about the dependencies, and Mark asked how more complex dependencies are set, and he said, I guess it's based on inputs, outputs. Can you say more about it?
For the dependencies, right now it's a declarative language, so you must declare the dependencies you must declare the dependencies at first. We have dependency inside the flow, inside one flow. So you can create each parallel, sequential, and so on to create complex pipelines. And we have also dependencies between flows, where you can set it, for example, I want to wait for the flow sales and the flow stocks. It was what we call multiple conditions, and you can make a real complex pipeline based on this. At Loromana, for example, there is a complexity of dependencies of flow. So, for example, for Airflow user, it was dependency of DAG, but reach 15 levels of dependencies. The last one will be triggered after the 15th other pipelines was done. So we can have a very large dependencies, and mostly Loromana say that it's killing features of Kestra, because they never need to have a production plan, and they just declare dependencies naturally, and all will be automatically done during the day.
Okay. I will get one last question from Ivo, and then I will finish this. So the question from Ivo is, what's the execution environment of the jobs? You said that you spin up Docker containers for user-defined code. How does it scale?
So basically, Kestra is based on cloud native technologies. So we have you are using at first Java for the main language of Kestra. Everything can be run on compute, on virtual machine, or in Dockers. So we can create. We have multiple services that can be scaled horizontally or vertically. There is no single point of failure in Kestra. And for the Docker container, we have what we call inside Kestra the workers, but is mostly the where the work will be done. And each worker is automatically configured with a Docker engine, and we create Docker at the runtime for each scripting language. So basically, for plugins that is Java based, we don't need to create containers, because Java is isolated natively by security. But for scripting language, for example, if you want to have a task with Python, we create a Docker container for every task in the worker, and you can have 100,000 of workers. It's not an issue, so it will scale the long terms. No worries about that.
Okay, thank you. So my last question, which is like a one I will ask to everyone, is also about like the pricing and like the borders between like the open source tool and the private company you are building. Can you say more about it? And also, when I look at this slide, I see mainly big companies rather than startups. Is it because you plan to focus more like on large enterprise because you think that your tool is more, is better suited for them?
Good question. A lot of questions. So for the first one, I will start with the business model. At the first, we have two edition for Kestra. We have the open source edition and the enterprise edition. The open source edition is not limited. There is no limitation inside the open source editions. You can create as many flows as you want. You can create you can use as many plugins as you want. Every plugin will remain free for the long terms. We never have some private plugins in Kestra. But the enterprise edition bring the security parts, so it brings the authentication, the SSO, the connection to the secret managers. It will also bring the high availability with no single point of failure, so you will be able to have all this stuff. And for the enterprise between startup company, we didn't target big corporations. Big corporation target us. So mostly we respond to everyone for now. We are a young company. In the reference that is on the PowerPoint, there is some startups that is using us, but clearly I think bigger name means bigger attention. So you are mostly looking at this name at first, and for the futures, we will start to working on the SaaS versions, and the SaaS version will be a fully managed version of Kestra. And I think this one will be more suitable for startup, I would say, and more smaller company than the enterprise edition that you need to install and to deploy on your own infrastructure, like we have right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ludovic. I think we're good. We don't have any more questions, and I think we are good in terms of time. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You might have some last words.
But please try, comment on the Slack, give us feedback. You will be happy to see that we are really welcoming every new user in the community, and we clearly want to feed the tools with the community needs, and we feed it really quickly. So please try, and please join the Slack for this, and don't forget the stickers.
Okay, thank you, Ludo, and see you. I will conclude the event.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Have a very great evening.
So we are almost done. I will still. I need like 1 more minute just to conclude the event. So I'm so happy that everyone joined. We were almost 80%, I think, at the peak from YouTube and LinkedIn. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I think what we have seen was really great. I think it's like also like a win-win situation, because Airflow users can also get inspiration, and Airflow contributors and the Airflow community can also get great ideas from the competition. And so I think it was like a good event. The shutout I will do right now is about the Airflow alternatives part 2. So we're gonna do a part 2 I think it's in 2 weeks. So it will be the 4th of April at the same hour on the same LinkedIn page and YouTube channel. And we're gonna be joined by Prefect and Daxter. So if you remember the presentation I did as introduction, we've seen that Prefect and Daxter were already used more than 3-4% as market share from the Seattle Data Guy survey. So it's gonna be awesome to see them. So we will create the event really soon, so you can join, and I hope I will see you for the part 2 in 2 weeks to have like the same kind of presentation. So thank you so much. Thank you for all the organizers that helped me to create this event. I hope you like it. And also the recording will be uploaded on the YouTube channel. So if you want to share it to your coworkers or stuff like this, or you just rewatch some part of the presentation, you will be able to see them on the YouTube channel, the Airflow Paris YouTube channel. We will upload it like tomorrow or the day after. So thank you so much, and see you in 2 weeks. I hope you had like a good time. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.